Welcome to Wisped Tales, where big ideas turn into stories you can actually use. Today's journey is the power of self-discipline. No excuses. This isn't a lecture, it's a map. If you've ever said, "I'll start Monday," and then watched 6 Mondays parade by, this one's for you. It begins on an ordinary American morning, Austin, Texas, 6:11 a.m. Miles Carter, 34, wakes to the soft rumble of an air conditioner fighting the July heat. His phone is glowing like a tiny casino. Sports cores, 2 "Are you ups?" Slacks, a sale on shoes he doesn't need. For years, Miles has been a brilliant negotiator with himself. "I'll run later. I'll send the portfolio when it's perfect. I'll budget after payday." Each delay comes wrapped in a reasonable story. Each story costs him a day he'll never get back. On his nightstand sits a cheap spiral notebook and a pen with a bite mark in the cap. Last night he wrote one sentence across the top, thick enough to see in the dim light. No excuses, only choices. He's not trying to become a machine. He's trying to stop lying to himself in polite ways. There's a difference. Machines obey commands. Adults honor decisions, especially when the feeling isn't there. Miles swings his legs out of bed and meets the first negotiation of the day. "It's already hot. You slept badly. Start tomorrow." The voice sounds like care. It's camouflage. He answers out loud, like he's closing a deal. "I'm not deciding how I feel, I'm deciding what I do." Then he stands. No music, no scroll. He pours water, laces shoes, and steps into a sky the color of a clean slate. Here's what discipline looks like in real life. A policy that survives your mood. Today's policy is 3 lines on a sticky note by the door. Run, 15 minutes, slow counts. Work, 1 60-minute focus block before email. Money, move $10 to savings, no debate. These are not heroic, they are binary. Did or did not. That's the math discipline loves. On the sidewalk, Austin smells like warm dust and tortillas. Miles jogs past a bakery that hasn't opened and a gym that never closes. His brain pitches excuses every block. Shin, sweat, inbox, later. He answers each with a boring, undefeated phrase. Minimum dose counts. He can run slow, he can stop at 15, but he will finish the unit because units, tiny, complete reps, turn into identity. Identity turns into momentum. Momentum turns into days that keep their word. Reduce noise. Back home, he rinses his face and starts the second line of the policy. 1 hour on the portfolio before the internet convinces him other people's projects are more important. He sets a kitchen timer, old school, tick-tick, and leaves his phone on airplane mode across the room like a wild animal he's trained with boundaries. At 17 minutes, the urge to check email claws at the door. He doesn't fight it, he reframes it. This is the feeling of becoming reliable. Tick, tick. He keeps typing. By 8:05 a.m., something quiet has shifted. The city is waking. Leaf blowers, coffee queues, dogs telling lies about squirrels, and Miles has already kept 3 promises that required nothing from the weather, his boss, or the algorithm. He's not high on motivation. He's sober on discipline. Motivation asks, "Do I feel like it?" Discipline asks, "What did I decide yesterday?" One is a mood, the other is a contract. At lunch, a coworker invites him to a quick bite that always becomes a 90-minute gossip festival. Old Miles would say yes, blame the calendar, and call it networking. The new policy is simple: no unplanned lunches on weekdays. He smiles, rain check, got a block to finish, and eats at his desk without martyrdom. Discipline isn't saying no to people, it's saying yes to the life you said you wanted. Afternoon heat presses through the office windows. The slump arrives, the one that makes adults scroll for crumbs of novelty. Miles stands, drinks water, and walks one lap around the building. Not a vibe reset, a physiology reset. He returns and finishes the last 18 minutes on his timer. He hits save. The file doesn't sing, no one claps, but a click happens inside. The click of a door fitting its frame. That click is the sound of self-respect. Evening brings the temptation that undoes good mornings. I earned it. Earned what, exactly? He opens the notebook and writes the smallest receipt of the day. Run done. Block done. 10 moved. He doesn't add adjectives. Adjectives invite drama. Receipts invite tomorrow to trust him. Here's the thesis of this entire series condensed to one American sentence you can say at a red light. I do small, non-negotiable things on time, especially when I don't feel like it. That's not cruelty, that's kindness to your future self. Excuses feel like comfort for 5 minutes. Discipline feels like freedom for the rest of the day. By 10:32 p.m., the AC hums, the phone sleeps outside the bedroom, and Miles reads one page of a book he chose on purpose. He whispers the closing line he's been practicing. We're safe. Lights out. Tomorrow won't be perfect. It will be steerable. And a steerable day, repeated, becomes a life that can carry real weight.
Reduce noise sounds like 1,000 hard choices. In practice, it's fewer choices made once than honored quietly when your mood votes no. Miles learns this the morning he prints a one-page contract and signs it like a grown-up signing a lease. The title isn't poetic, it's useful. What I do on weekdays, even when I don't feel like it. The contract contains 3 parts: floors, fences, and finishes. Floors are minimums he hits no matter what. 15 minutes of movement, 60 minutes of focused work on the portfolio before email, $10 to savings. Fences are boundaries that protect those floors. Phone sleeps outside the bedroom, no unplanned lunches, no social apps before noon. Finishes are the small closers that keep days from fraying. One-line recap at night, and the first inch of tomorrow placed where his morning eyes can't miss it. He doesn't promise transformations, he promises units. Units are binary. You did them or you didn't. That binary spares him the debate that used to eat his mornings. Discipline fails most often in negotiation windows, those soft minutes when you let your brain hold a courtroom. Miles removes the courtroom by scheduling hard starts. At 7 a.m., shoes on, timer set, out the door. At 7:45, shower. At 8:10, portfolio file open, kitchen timer ticking. He speaks the start line out loud to lock it in. Begin now. Talking to himself felt ridiculous the first week. Now it's a lever. The body moves when the mouth gives a clear command. If he's exhausted, the command doesn't grow teeth. The unit shrinks. Jog becomes a brisk walk. 60 minutes becomes 30, then 20. The rule never changes. Minimum dose counts. He's not lowering standards, he's lowering friction, so the identity, I'm a person who does what he said, survives ugly days. Excuses are persuasive because they pretend to be care. You didn't sleep enough. It's too hot. Today's packed. You deserve a break. Miles doesn't fight them with speeches. He answers with policies that were written by a well-rested version of himself. If sleep was short, policy says walk for 15, water, sunlight, then work for 20 and call it a win. If Texas heat tries to auction off his motivation, policy says indoor set, 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 60-second plank. Counted, not compared. If the day is packed, policy says carve a small rude square anyway and protect it like a dentist's appointment. That's the real edge of discipline, not heroic mornings, but non-negotiable squares carved out of loud days. Environment becomes his secret accomplice. He moves the phone charger to a hallway table like a tiny border crossing. He lays his shoes by the door so his feet trip over intention before excuses find a megaphone. He leaves the portfolio tab open and full-screened at night, so morning Miles starts inside the work instead of at the gates of the internet. He sets the kitchen timer where he can hear its old-fashioned tick. The sound says, "We're in a block. Everything else waits." He keeps a glass of water on the desk and a 3x5 card that reads, "Headline, because, next." Not because slogans change lives, but because cues change behaviors at the speed of sight. He isn't trying to be stronger. He's trying to be obvious.
There is a sentence he whispers whenever his brain pitches a clever delay. Feelings are weather. Policies are roads. Weather changes by the hour. Roads go where they go, rain or shine. On a muggy Wednesday, the road takes him through a 60-minute block that wants to die at minute 12. He doesn't bargain with drama. He runs a tiny rescue sequence like a pilot reading a checklist. Stand up, drink water, 2 slow exhales, 1 sentence to re-enter. Where I left off was... It takes 60 seconds and saves the hour. Later, when a colleague pings with, "Quick coffee?" he doesn't make excuses. He tells the truth of his fence. Heads down this week. Next week works. People adjust. The calendar breathes. His work stops living under the tyranny of everyone else's convenience. The hardest part of no excuses is that you will still miss. A phone call will stretch. A headache will bloom. A promise will slip. Old Miles turned misses into meanings. See? Same you. New Miles turns misses into patch notes. He writes 1 line in the notebook like an engineer shipping an update. Patch. Prep metrics at 9:30 a.m. Water before lunch. No speeches. No self-trials. Just a fix he can test tomorrow. He also keeps a rain plan taped inside the cover. On the worst days, move for 5 minutes, write for 5 minutes, transfer $5, and say the restart line. Back now, 1 sentence and done. The rain plan keeps the identity dry until the sky clears. Excuses also hide inside other people's voices. A teammate's sarcasm, a relative's "be realistic," or a friend who wants weekday beers because you earned it. Discipline doesn't require defending yourself to every chorus. It asks for simple, repeatable lines. I'm off weeknights this month. Saturdays are spot. Can't today. Shipping before noon. Rain check. He doesn't perform morality. He states a policy. Stated calmly and consistently, policies become how people understand you. The fewer negotiations you hold, the fewer you'll be invited to hold. Money is where no excuses either grows up or goes to retire. Miles automates his smallest good decision, $10 every weekday to savings at 9:05 a.m. So discipline doesn't need to wake up for it. He keeps a post-it on his debit card that says, "Emergency fund first." He stops calling small transfers nothing. In a month, they are visible. In a year, they are freedom.
That's discipline's quiet trick. It makes tiny moves look like math instead of myth. By night, Austin glows. The AC hums. The phone sleeps at customs. Miles writes a one-line receipt that a tired future self can't argue with. I kept the contract today. He doesn't grade himself. He doesn't chase a feeling. He records a fact. Facts stack into trust. Trust becomes the sturdy feeling people mistake for motivation. Tomorrow we'll ask again. He already answered tonight. Excuses don't arrive as villains, they arrive as reasonable. In Austin's soft dawn, Miles hears them like friendly neighbors. You're sore. Rest today. Inbox is exploding. Start with email. It's only $10. Skip the transfer this once. What makes excuses dangerous is not their volume, but their logic. So he builds a reflex that turns logic back into language he can act on. Whenever a delay sentence pops up, he runs 3 moves silently. Spot, translate, replace.
Spotting is quick labeling. This is comfort. This is fear. This is confusion. Naming shrinks fog to a shape. Translation turns the excuse into a neutral truth. I'm sore becomes I need a lighter unit, not 0. Inbox is exploding becomes I'm anxious, so I want easy dopamine. Skip the transfer becomes I want to feel rich for 5 minutes instead of be free in 6 months. Replacement is a pre-decided sentence that creates motion. Minimum dose counts. Headline first, details later. Transfer, then coffee. No speeches, just policy language that moves feet and fingers. The body helps. When an excuse lands, Miles doesn't argue. He stands up, takes 2 slow exhales, sips water, and touches the doorknob or the keyboard. That tiny physical ritual is his start gun. He learned the hard way that debates in chairs last all morning. Debates on feet end faster. On hot days when Texas feels like an oven, the ritual points him to the indoor rain plan. 5 minutes of movement on the living room rug, then directly into the first block. Discipline isn't louder willpower, it's fewer steps to the right step. Procrastination loves vagueness, so he attacks ambiguity first. Work on portfolio used to be a swamp where hours disappeared. Now he writes a one-line job he could hand to a stranger. Open file, write the problem paragraph, stop. If that still feels heavy, he adds a first inch so small it insults his ego. Write the title line. He's learned to protect ego by ignoring it. The dopamine that used to come from scrolling now comes from completing tiny scopes. Brains don't actually need big wins. They need clear finishes. Accountability becomes a tool, not a performance. Miles texts a friend in Denver at 7:05 a.m., starting 60-minute block. At 8:10, he sends, done. That's it. No coaching, no essays, just a time-stamp sandwich that turns a private promise into a witnessed one. Humans are more reliable in front of others. He uses that quirk without turning his life into a reality show. When he can't text, he drops a sticky note on the desk with the end time. When the minute arrives, the note stares back like a mirror. Mirrors are better policemen than moods. Some excuses wear virtue masks. I'm helping a teammate, my work can wait. Or, I'm researching best practices, which means 5 tabs and no output. To disarm the mask, he asks one clarifying question. What result will exist at the end of this hour?
If the answer is a sentence he can send, draft paragraph, chart updated, $10 transferred, it's real work. If the answer is, I'll know more, it's a hobby until proven otherwise. He isn't anti-research, he's anti-endless preparation theater. The hour either ships a thing or sets a clock for a decision. That's the difference between motion and progress. Evenings once undid his mornings with the softest, deadliest excuse. I earned it. He keeps the reward, but he schedules it. The show still plays, the tacos still arrive, but only after the 3 finishes. One-line recap in the notebook. Tomorrow's first inch on the keyboard. Phone at the hallway customs table. Turning reward into ritual saves him from the slippery bargain that becomes a week. It also teaches his brain a sweeter truth. Pleasure after completion tastes cleaner and lasts longer. Money used to be the easiest loophole. It's only $10. $10 multiplied by 30 onlys was his momentum tax. Now the excuse translator speaks fluent finance. A dollar moved is a dollar trained. Training happens daily. On tight days, he moves 5 and writes floor protected. On good days, he moves 20 and writes ceiling nudged. Excuses shrink when math speaks plainly. He stops trying to feel rich and starts behaving free.
People around you will lend you borrowed excuses. A coworker says, nobody finishes blocks before email. A relative says, you're too intense. Miles answers with calm lines that are true without being defensive. This rhythm works for me, or shipping before noon keeps me sane. He repeats gently and changes nothing. Repetition does what explanations can't. It teaches the room your shape. Once a room learns your shape, it stops asking you to melt. Relapses happen. One Thursday, he scrolls through lunch, buries the portfolio, and tells himself 5 clever lies. At 5:40, the shame script starts loading. This used to be the part where he'd torch the day and promise a cinematic tomorrow. Not anymore. He runs the 3-minute recovery. Set a 5-minute timer, open the file, write the ugliest paragraph of the week, save, and write 1 line in the notebook. Missed, returned, shipped a sentence. He doesn't chase redemption, he restores integrity with 1 small present receipt. The day ends repaired, not perfect, and he sleeps like someone he trusts. By the weekend, he can hear the excuse machine winding down. It will never be silent, that isn't the goal. The goal is for its volume to stop deciding his calendar. He has built a mind that prefers facts to feelings when it's time to begin, that treats friction like a design problem, and that forgives fast without lowering the floor. That's no excuses in adult clothing, not cruelty, not grind for Instagram, just clean promises kept on schedule. Discipline is hardest at the start line, so Miles stops trying to be heroic at 7 a.m. and makes the start line frictionless. He builds 3 tiny rituals that flip his brain from talker to doer. Ritual 1, the doorway. Before any work block, he stands, places 1 hand on the doorknob or the desk edge if he's home, breathes 4 in, 6 out, twice, and says a single verb out loud, begin. It takes 10 seconds. He learned this from pilots and nurses, people who can't afford vague. His body now treats the word like a green light. Even when the mind wants to negotiate, muscles move first. Ritual 2, the timer and title. He opens the file and types a 1-line title that names the finish. Write problem paragraph, update chart 2, send vendor email. Then he twists the old kitchen timer to 25 minutes and starts. If the urge to check email or weather or that 1 sneaker review pops up, he doesn't argue. He glances at the title and asks, Does that click help this finish? The answer is always no, so the eyes return. Titles are little bosses. They keep meetings, blocks, and minds honest. Ritual 3. The receipt. When the timer rings, he stops, even if he's rolling, and types a one-sentence receipt at the top. Drafted problem paragraph, next, examples. He bolds next, so tomorrow's self can see it without scrolling. This one-line breadcrumb saves 5 minutes of re-entry later and makes the habit rewarding right now. Discipline sticks when it creates mini relief at the end, not just guilt at the start. He stitches these rituals into places that used to betray him. Mornings begin with the doorway plus run or indoor set, no playlist needed. Work blocks begin with title plus timer, never with inbox. Evenings end with the receipt and tomorrow's first inch placed where sleepy eyes can't miss it. The more automatic the ritual, the less interesting the excuse machine becomes. It can't find a lobby to loiter in. Environment does half the work. He gives every tool a home and every habit a stage. Shoes by the door, mat unrolled beside the dresser, water bottle filled at night, charger at the hallway customs table, the portfolio tab full-screened before bed. He clears the desk except for the timer and a 3x5 card that reads HBN, headline, because, next. When he's tempted to over-explain, that card pulls his English back to useful. When the desk looks ready, his brain arrives ready. That's not psychology magic, it's interior design for attention.
Reduce noise. To keep momentum human, he runs the 2-speed day. Mornings are hard edges, movement, one deep block, the smallest money move. Afternoons are soft edges, admin, calls, tidy work, simple sends. This honors energy instead of pretending he's a robot. If travel or emergencies hit, he falls back to a tiny rain plan taped inside his notebook. 5-minute move, 5-minute make, $5 transfer, 1-line receipt. The rain plan protects the identity floor. If the floor holds, the house stands. There's a quiet moment at 1:30 p.m. where discipline usually dies, the slump. Miles treats it like weather he expects. He keeps a slump kit in the drawer. Salted nuts, a tea bag, lip balm, and a sticky note that says, "Walk to light." He stands, gets to a window or sidewalk, breathes, returns, and runs a fresh 15. No drama, no judgment. The kit turns an hour-long drag into a 10-minute detour. Self-discipline isn't the absence of tired, it's the presence of scripts when tired arrives. He also writes rules that govern tech, not him. Notifications batch at 11:30 and 4:30. Social lives in 2 15-minute boxes with a visible timer. Search answers a written question or gets parked in a Sunday folder. The phone sleeps outside the bedroom. These aren't punishments. They're guardrails that keep human willpower from wrestling industrial-grade distraction all day. Relationships get rituals too. On Mondays, he sends a 2-line plan to his manager, main point and next step. On Fridays, a 2-line receipt, what shipped and 1 lesson. With a friend in Denver, it's the timestamp sandwich, starting 60, then done. With himself, it's the 4-word lullaby that closes the loop. We're safe, lights out. Discipline loves closure. Closure protects tomorrow. When he slips, and he does, the ritual handles the repair. He doesn't bargain for perfection. He runs restart lines. Back now, 1 sentence and done. The sentence happens, integrity returns. Over weeks, the rituals become the personality trait outsiders call disciplined. Inside, it feels simpler. Fewer debates, more starts, clean endings. By the time Austin's sky turns orange over South Congress, Miles has kept promises that looked small on paper and felt large in his bones. Not because he is special, but because he arranged a day where the right thing was the easy thing to begin. That's the secret most no excuses sermons miss. Discipline isn't a mood you chase, it's a set of switches you flip the same way, in the same order, until excuses have nowhere comfortable to sit. Discipline feels shaky until it can see itself. Miles learns this the day he stops asking, "Was I good?" and starts asking, "What did I do?" He buys a $6 grid notebook from a Walgreens on South Congress and draws 3 skinny columns across the first page. Move 15, make 60, money 10. Inputs only, no calories burned, no word counts, no bank sermons, just boxes that either get ink or don't. The simplicity is insulting to his ego and perfect for his nervous system. At 7:40 a.m., he inks a small square for the run. At 9:15, one for the deep work block. At 9:05, the $10 transfer fires automatically, and he colors the third. The page looks like a child's chore chart. That's the point. Children don't need philosophy to tidy rooms, they need clear squares to fill. Metrics can poison or purify. He picks numbers that lead, not lag. Instead of weighing himself daily, he tracks days with movement and sleep start times. Instead of obsessing over portfolio views, he tracks blocks finished and published sent. Instead of staring at the account balance, he tracks transfers completed. Outcomes arrive like weather. Inputs are the thermostat. Focusing on inputs removes the emotional whiplash that used to send him spiraling. 2 good days, 1 bad day, and then a weekend of punishment disguised as rest. Now he has a boring chain of receipts that doesn't care how he feels at noon.
He adds a tiny after-action to each night, 3 lines on an index card stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a taco. Line 1, moved what? Jog, home set, walk. Line 2, made what? Draft paragraph, updated chart, email shipped. Line 3, money, transfer fired, category frozen. No adjectives, no confessionals. He slips the card behind the last one. A quiet stack grows. On Friday, he flips through and sees 5 honest days. Pride shows up the way it always should, as evidence. The weekly review is where discipline matures. Sunday afternoon, light coming through the blinds, he opens the grid and asks 3 questions that never accuse, only adjust. Where did the chain break? Why? Skill, setup, or timing? What's the smallest fix I will test this week? If skill, he books a 20-minute tutorial and adds a single practice drill to Tuesday. If setup, he moves a tool closer, shoes by the door, portfolio tab open, timer on the desk. If timing, he reschedules the hard thing to when his best energy actually exists. He writes 1 patch note at the bottom. Patch. Block starts at 8:10, not 9 o'clock. And circles it. That circle is not a promise to future him, it's a spec the week will follow. Numbers tempt performance art, so he guards against it with a rule. No streak worship. Streaks are useful until they own you. Miss one day and shame turns a hiccup into a holiday. Miles replaces never miss with return fast. He even draws a small lightning bolt above any square he fills on a comeback day, the day after a miss, the hour after a wobble, the evening after he almost said, "Forget it." Those bolts become his favorite marks. They certify that discipline isn't purity, it's bounce. Because the brain is visual, he builds a 1-page scoreboard that's actually useful and tapes it inside a cabinet door. Left column lists floors, move 15, make 60, money $10. Middle column lists fences,
Phone sleeps outside, no unplanned lunches, no social before noon. Finishes are one-sentence receipt, first inch set. Each day he drops a check in each column. If a fence breaks, he doesn't scold. He annotates the cost. Scrolled at 8:12 leads to deep block started late by 23 minutes. Seeing the price tag makes fences easier to honor than arguing about morals. Work gets a professional version of the ledger. Monday morning, he pings his manager a 2-line plan, main point and next step. And Friday, he sends a 2-line receipt, what shipped and one lesson. He keeps those lines in a private doc called proof. When imposter syndrome knocks, he scrolls that doc like it's bank statements from a life he used to dream about. The entries are not epic, they are real. Real beats epic every quarter in any American company. Money, the slipperiest ledger, finally behaves because it's autopiloted. The $10 weekday transfer is set and forget. He adds a 4th checkbox to the grid just for financial friction, a tiny square labeled freeze. One category each week gets a freezing state: coffee out, rideshare, late-night delivery. He doesn't eliminate joy, he aims it. The freeze box fills, or it doesn't. He tracks kept decisions, not guilt. A month later, the emergency fund crosses a number that makes his shoulders drop. That number is heavy with bored little squares. Discipline without mercy snaps, so the ledger includes grace math. On weeks that punch him, sick family member, busted AC, deadline cluster, he lowers the floor to a rain plan and writes RP next to every check. RP means identity protected under pressure. When the storm passes, he raises the floor back. The grid records both facts without judgment. Judgment doesn't keep promises. Systems do.
Finally, he adds a column the self-help posters always forget: joy. One small square a day. Sunlight on eyelids, call with a friend, a walk to watch the bats at Congress Avenue Bridge, a playlist that knows his pulse. Joy fuels the engine that powers the ledger. Without it, no excuses turns into a costume you can't wait to rip off. With it, no excuses feels like care. By month's end, the notebook is ugly and perfect. Ink smudges, coffee rings, and a story no algorithm can sell him. A normal American adult in a hot city, keeping tiny promises most days and repairing fast on the rest. He doesn't feel like a paragon of discipline. He feels like a person with a dashboard that tells the truth. The excuses haven't disappeared. They've just become background music under a louder rhythm. Check, 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 bolt. That rhythm is what freedom sounds like when you write it down. Self-discipline isn't only about what you do, it's about what you refuse so your best promises have room to breathe. Miles figures this out on a week when his calendar keeps getting hijacked by quick things that multiply like rabbits. A neighbor wants help moving, just a few boxes. A coworker drops a meeting without an agenda at 9 a.m., right on top of his deep work block. A friend texts, "Tacos tonight, you earned it." None of these are evil. All of them are expensive if he pays with the wrong currency. The hour reserved for the life he said he wanted. So he writes a no list, not a manifesto, a memo to himself. 5 sentences he can send without apology. 1. Weekday lunches are booked this month. Let's do Saturday. 2. I'm heads down 8:10 to 9:10. Send me the goal and deadline. 3. No meetings without an agenda. If it's 3 lines and a date, email works. 4. I'm skipping weeknight drinks. Walk call instead. 5. I can do 20 minutes, not an hour. What's most useful?
He pastes these into his phone as text replacements, so discipline is 2 taps away. Boundaries stop feeling confrontational when they're pre-written and consistent. Temptation rarely looks like temptation, it looks like later. To disarm later, he pre-commits in the morning, like a person who knows his 5 p.m. brain is a toddler. He lays gym clothes on the chair, places the kitchen timer on the keyboard, cues the $10 transfer at 9:05, and moves takeaway apps to a hidden screen. He also adds a speed bump to his biggest leaks. If he wants delivery, he has to walk to get the wallet he leaves in the car. If he wants to scroll, the phone is in grayscale and lives on the hallway shelf. Every extra step is a tiny, "Are you sure?" that turns impulses into choices. Food and money get adult rules because that's where "I earned it" loves to hide. He writes 2 gentle policies that save miles of regret. Eat before you're starving. Buy after you've slept. The first kills the 9 p.m. pantry raid. The second kills late-night purchases that arrive with shame. When a sale hunts him, he asks one sentence that never lies. If this were full price tomorrow, would I still want it? If no, the tab closes. If yes, he checks the budget buddy that matters, Future Miles, by looking at the emergency fund line. Numbers talk louder than excuses if you let them. People complicate boundaries because you care about them.
Reduce noise. A cousin wants him to troubleshoot a laptop mid-work block. Old Miles would sigh and say yes. New Miles uses specific kindness. "I can't at 9. I'm free 4:30 to 4:50. Text me then." Specific beats vague every time in American rooms. It tells the other person how to win with you. When someone pushes, it'll take 2 minutes. He smiles and repeats the shape. 4:30 to 4:50. Broken records feel rude in your head and reliable to everyone else. The office tests him with a classic, a reoccurring meeting that never starts on time and never ends on purpose. He proposes rails, not rebellion. Could we try 25 minutes? Start with headlines, end with next steps? He offers to timebox. If the room agrees, the meeting becomes useful. If not, he sets a quiet exit. "I'll need to drop at 25 for a deliverable." Discipline in public is predictable behavior, not volume. Evenings stay clean when pleasure is scheduled. He names weeknights for things that refill the battery without taxing tomorrow. Monday, walk call. Tuesday, read 20 pages. Wednesday, stretch plus podcast. Thursday, tidy plus playlist. Tacos still happen, Friday, and taste better because they're framed by a week that kept its word. This isn't monk life, it's menu life. When your joys have a place, they stop stealing other rooms' rent. He builds one last line that protects him from the fuzziest trap, emotional emergencies that are really avoidance invitations. If a friend spirals at 3 p.m., he replies, "I'm in a block, can talk at 5. If you need a quick lifeline now, drink water, step outside, text me your headline." He's present without becoming a 24/7 firefighter. Real emergencies get real exceptions. Everything else gets a container. Here's the quiet math. Every no on the list is a yes to the hour he pre-bought for movement, making, and money, the triangle that built his new spine. After a week with the no list live, his days feel wider, though his schedule hasn't changed. That's the paradox of boundaries. The tighter they hold, the freer you are inside them. By the time Austin's heat slips and South Congress glows, Miles has said fewer words than usual and kept more promises. Not because he is iron-willed, but because his edges now carry the weight instead of his mood. Excuses still knock. The door stays locked, kindly. Inside, the work gets done, the body moves, the savings grow, and the night ends with a sentence in a notebook
that reads like a small prayer. Kept the yes, because I kept the no. Excuses don't kill discipline. Silence after a miss does. On a Wednesday that chews up his schedule, Miles breaks his own rules, scrolls through lunch, skips the run, lets the deep block drown under just checking in. At 6:10 p.m., the old soundtrack loads. You blew it. Start over Monday. That story used to win entire weeks. Not anymore. Self-discipline without mercy is cosplay. The grown-up version has a restart protocol so boring it works on contact. He runs it now, out loud, like reading a laminated card on the wall. Step 1. Name it. Not me. Today was messy. Not I am a mess. Facts, not identity. Step 2. Body first. Water, 3 slow exhales, 10 squats by the sink. Biology before philosophy. Step 3. Shrink the target to the smallest version that still changes him. 5 honest minutes on the portfolio file, $5 to savings, 2 paragraphs of a recap he'll send in the morning. Step 4. Receipt line in the notebook. Missed. Returned. Shipped a sentence. Restart complete. Integrity restored. No speeches. He learns to pre-install soft landings everywhere the day breaks. If the morning run dies, indoor rain plan. 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 60-second plank. Count it.
Reduce noise. If the deep work block gets stolen, micro-make. Open the doc, bold the headline, write the next subhead. If the $10 transfer forgets him, move $5 now and write floor protected. Small is not surrender. Small is salvage. Salvage keeps identity intact when perfection can't. The next trap is guilt disguised as productivity. I'll punish myself with a 3-hour block tonight. He doesn't. He protects the floor and goes to bed on time. Sleep is discipline's silent partner. It fixes more than heroics at 11:30 p.m. Ever since he started closing the day with the 4-word lullaby, "We're safe, lights out," tomorrows arrive with less sand in the gears and more patience for doing the right, tiny thing first. At work, he builds public rails for fast returns. After a sloppy afternoon, he pings his manager a 2-line truth at 4:45. Missed my window today. Main point, numbers land by 10 a.m. Because I've set the block, owning the miss plus setting the clock turns weakness into trust. In American rooms, speed of repair outruns a spotless record. He edits his ledger to celebrate the bounce, not the streak. A lightning bolt mark goes on any square he fills after a wobble, the day after the miss, the hour after the spiral. Those bolts become his favorite ink. They say the thing discipline really wants to hear. I come back. He also writes 1 patch note per slip, as small as a hinge. Open metrics at 8:15, not 9 a.m. Wallet stays in the car, so delivery requires shoes. Agenda or email. Patches, not penance. Hands hand him their own scripts, just grind harder, or you deserve a break. He declines politely, I run a floor. Floors make him predictable to himself. On travel days, he switches to the travel floor without guilt. Walk the terminal for 10 minutes, $5 transfer, 1 sentence in the notebook, phone sleeps at customs. When he lands, he returns to the full contract without making the layover a referendum on character. There's a deeper kindness he practices after a messy week. Choose one cause, not every cause. Was the miss about skill? You didn't know how? Setup? The tool wasn't ready? Or timing? You placed hard work where energy was low.
he fixes one thing and leaves the rest. Overcorrection is just another excuse wearing a cape. 1 inch tighter beats a new religion. By Sunday, the week looks human. A few clean chains, a few bolts, and a few patch notes that make next week feel lighter. Self-discipline stops sounding like a courtroom and starts sounding like a maintenance plan. Oil changed, tires aired, lights checked, back on the road. Excuses still knock. The house has a front door now, with a lock, a mat, and a rule. If you get in, you don't get to stay. White-knuckle grit will launch a day. It won't carry a year. Miles figures this out on a humid Austin Friday when sheer force gets him through the run, the block, and the transfer. But by 3:30 p.m., he's a statue staring at a cursor. The old version of discipline would push harder, louder, angrier. The grown-up version adds a second engine, grace, so the first engine doesn't burn the plane. Together, they make something rare, reliable effort that lasts. Engine 1. Grit. Boundaries plus command.
Grit speaks in short verbs that move the body. Begin, block, sand, save, stop. It lives in floors. Move 15, make 60, money $10. Fences, phone outside bedroom, no unplanned lunches, no social before noon. And finishes. 1-line receipt, first inch set. Grit is the part that doesn't wait for a feeling and doesn't negotiate with weather, other people's urgency, or your own clever stories. It's the pilot who says, checklist, now. Engine 2. Grace. Recovery and permission. Grace speaks in questions that keep you human. What would make the next 5 minutes easier? What's the smallest version that still changes me? What can I do tired that future me will thank me for? Grace lives in rain plans. 5-minute move, /make, $, receipt. Micro recoveries, water, light, walk. And restart lines. Back now, 1 sentence and done. Grace is the ground crew that keeps the plane flying tomorrow. When Miles marries the engines, the day stabilizes. At 7 a.m., Grit gets shoes on. At 7:12, Grace chooses shade and slow. At 8:10, Grit starts the deep block on time. At 8:37, Grace lets him stand, breathe, and return without calling it failure. At 9:05, Grit moves $10 automatically. At lunch, Grace chooses food before starving so 3 p.m. doesn't beg for sugar. This isn't softness, it's engineering for human parts. He draws a simple map on a 3x5 card and tapes it to his monitor. If I hesitate to start, then doorway ritual, hand, breath, begin. If I stall mid-block, then stand, drink, 2 exhales, right, where I left off, was. If I'm fried by afternoon, then swap to tidy/admin, protect tomorrow's deep block. If a promise slips, then rain plan plus receipt, 1 patch note. That card keeps him from turning human limits into moral failures. Discipline breaks when we confuse capacity with character. There's a second place Grace saves Grit. Language. The voice in his head used to shout, "Don't be weak." Now it says, "Be specific." 2 more sentences, then stop. Finish chart 2, send, done. Specificity is kinder than hype and more effective than shame. On tough mornings, he whispers a line that has 0 adrenaline and 100% follow-through.
One honest unit. He does one. Often, he does two. Sleep becomes non-negotiable because grit without sleep is cosplay. He keeps the four-word lullaby, "We're safe," lights out, but adds a pre-sleep grace check. Am I trying to buy tomorrow's progress with tonight's willpower? If yes, he closes the laptop, sets the first inch, and protects the person who has to live inside his body at 7 a.m. Tomorrow's discipline is mostly tonight's mercy. Relationships need both engines too. When a coworker drifts in late with a quick chat during his block, grit says the boundary. Heads down till 9:10. Send me the goal? When a friend vents at 8 p.m., grace says, I've got 10 now or 30 tomorrow, what helps more? People feel held and informed. That combination keeps calendars clean without hardening your heart. Motivation still spikes in crashes. Miles stops chasing spikes. He builds rails that work at baseline. On high-energy days, he rides grit a little farther. Extra set, extra paragraph, extra $10. On low-energy days, grace lowers the floor without lowering identity. The ledger reflects both honestly. Checks on good days. Checks with little lightning bolts on bounce-back days. RP on storms. No drama. Just continuity. Grit also requires aim, or it turns into pointless suffering. Every Monday, he rereads a one-line compass he stuck inside the grid notebook. I make and explain useful things, briefly, clearly, consistently.
If a task doesn't feed that line or his base triangle, move, make, money, it leaves the list. Pain without purpose becomes resentment. Pain with purpose becomes meaning. There's a moment, late on a Sunday, when he realizes the paradox. Grace didn't make him softer, it made him more disciplined, because it removed the punishments that triggered sabotage. He trusts himself now, not to be superhuman, just to return. The return is the miracle. The miracle is repeatable. By night, Austin hums like a warm engine. The phone sleeps at customs, the timer is back on the desk, and tomorrow's first inch waits like a welcome mat. Miles writes the only line that matters in a boring life that works. Both engines ran. He closes the notebook. No hype, no guilt, just a system sturdy enough to carry another week. Days don't fail at 2 p.m. They fail at 7 a.m. or 10 p.m. In the bookends, where discipline either gets its rails or loses its keys. Miles used to enter mornings like a mall, wandering, sampling, leaving full of nothing. Evenings were Netflix with amnesia. He flips the script by treating the first and last 20 minutes like switchboards. If he flips the right switches, the middle of the day mostly behaves itself. The morning switchboard is 6 moves and 1 sentence, all done before his phone earns citizenship. He drinks a glass of water to remind his body it's not a cactus. He steps outside, even onto a porch, for light on his eyelids, so the clock in his brain knows what planet it's on. He moves for 5 minutes, not to be an athlete, but to tell his nervous system the difference between alert and alarm. He reads his sticky note policy, move 15, make 60, money 10. So the day has a job. He lays the shoes or the mat or both where gravity can't miss them. And then he speaks the sentence that makes the rest possible. Begin now. That verb doesn't negotiate. It opens the gate. He starts with a first inch so tiny there's no room for excuses to sit. Type the title line of the draft. Lace the shoes and walk 1 block. Open the bank app and move 10. The first inch is a handshake with the day. I'll go first.
By the time most people open their inbox to be told who they are, Miles has already done 3 small, reliable things only he could do for himself. He's not high on discipline, he's low on friction. The phone gets admitted after the first inch, not before. And even then, it's just a tool. Timer, notes, map, inside a city with laws. Mornings also decide tone. If he begins with input, news, feeds, everyone else's weather, his thinking turns into a crowded elevator. If he begins with output, one paragraph, one plan, one stretch, his thinking becomes a room with a door that closes. He keeps a 3x5 card taped near the kettle. Output before input. Headline, because, next. That card prevents him from spending the best hour of his brain solving strangers' problems. Evenings used to undo everything with the soft sentence, "I earned it." He keeps the "it," just not first. The night switchboard is also 6 moves and 1 sentence, all done before credits roll. He sets tomorrow's first inch on the keyboard where sleepy eyes land at 7 a.m. He drops a receipt line in the notebook, what moved, jammed, and the smallest patch for tomorrow. He does a 2-minute reset of the room he'll see in the morning. Clear desk, timer centered, water filled, shoes visible. Because environments decide more behavior than lectures ever will. He sends one closing message if needed, main point, because, next. So his brain doesn't try to rehearse a speech at 1 a.m.
He turns the phone into a citizen of customs on the hallway table. And then he speaks the 4 words that let tomorrow borrow a stronger body. We're safe. Lights out. Rituals over willpower. Closure over scrolling. Soft landings over late-night heroics. The space between the bookends gets simpler when the bookends are honored. Calendars stop needing courage every hour because the morning already made the hardest choice, the first one. Food choices stop collapsing at 9 p.m. because the evening included kind setups, fruit front row, water in the fridge, the wallet inconvenient for delivery. Even conflict gets easier. Miles answers tough emails before lunch in a room that already knows he can do small, hard things. The middle of the day becomes a train on tracks, not a kite in wind. Travel and chaos test the model, so he writes travel bookends. Morning equals water, light, 5 push-ups, first inch on the flight. Title the doc. Night equals lay out tomorrow's clothes, 1 sentence to someone he serves, manager, partner, friend. Phone at customs, even in a hotel. The content shrinks, the identity doesn't. That's the point. You don't take routines on the road, you take principles with tiny forms. There's a stealth dividend, self-trust. When mornings and nights run, Miles' inner narrator stops auditioning feelings and starts reading facts. Fact: you moved. Fact: you made. Fact: you funded the future by $10. Fact: you set the first inch for the next day. Facts don't care if motivation is shy. They care if you flipped the switches. On a cool Sunday, he writes the simplest summary a person can live by. I keep the bookends, the book keeps itself. He closes the notebook. Monday can do what it wants. The rails are down. The train knows the way. Self-discipline becomes real when time stops being a rumor. Miles learns this on a Tuesday that used to be his specialty. Busy, loud, and somehow unproductive. He flips the script by giving his day 3 things adults in the U.S. workplaces rely on more than pep talks: deadlines, checklists, and clocks. Not corporate theater, mechanics.
He starts with owned deadlines, dates he sets and treats like someone else set them. At 8:05 a.m., he writes 3 lines on an index card. Ship draft by 11 a.m. Send vendor nudge by 2:30. Update budget by 6 p.m. He writes times, not vibes. Times give discipline teeth. Then he writes one sentence under the card that he will say to himself out loud at any wobble. It goes out ugly and on time, then improves. That single policy kills perfection's favorite alibi, later. Later is a luxury. On time is a habit. His calendar becomes a factory floor, not a scrapbook. He blocks 2 focused sets before noon, 8:10 to 9:10, then a 5-minute reset walk, then inbox at 10:30. Meetings live after he has made something. He color codes 3 things only: deep work, admin, social. When a coworker tries to drop a meeting on top of deep work, Miles replies with a friendly rail. Heads down 8 to 10. Can we do 10:45? Goal plus deadline? Rails feel bossy in your head and reliable to everyone else. Checklists pull emotion out of hard tasks. For the morning draft, he opens a tiny launch list he built once and now reuses daily. 1. Write the headline a 5th grader would understand. 2. Add because and one clear reason. 3. End with a single next step plus owner and when. 4. Read it once out loud.
5. Ship on time. Ugly allowed. He checks boxes with a pen because pens end arguments. The list doesn't make the work brilliant, it makes it real. And real beats brilliant when the clock is watching. Miles also uses a stop list, the cousin nobody prints but everybody needs. Before he starts a block, he reads a 3-line ban. No inbox, no chat, no research beyond 2 links. If a question demands a rabbit hole, it goes in a note labeled Sunday folder. He's not anti-curious, he's anti-derailment. Sunday can hold wonder. Tuesday needs throughput. Deadlines fail when they're private. So he sends a 2-line promise to a manager or peer at 8:12. Draft lands by 11. I'll ask for numbers if blocked by 9:40. The moment he presses send, the clock belongs to the room, not his mood. That's not pressure. That's professional oxygen. People move faster around those who close loops when they say they will. At 9:37, friction attacks. He wants to tweak fonts, rephrase a sentence 9 times, check the news. He reads the policy under the index card again. Ugly and on time, then improve. He ships at 10:58, 2 minutes early. The click he hears isn't happiness, it's trust recombining inside his chest. Trust in himself shows up as a quieter afternoon. Less bargaining, more doing. Budget time gets the same mechanics. At 5:40 p.m., he opens a 10-minute money checklist. Transfer $10. Scan last 24 hours for leaks. Mark this week's freeze category. Rideshare, late-night delivery, whatever keeps flirting. If an expense pops up, he runs the sleep rule. Buy after you've slept. A single night kills most urgent purchases. What survives is likely a choice, not an excuse. Email, the great American attention tax, gets a window and a finish. He opens at 10:30 and 3:30 only, scans for anything with a date, and turns vague asks into tickets. Got it. Main goal plus deadline? Every reply ends with a next step, even if the next step is, I'll confirm numbers by 2 p.m. He keeps a canned opener he pastes into messy threads. Main point,
Arrow, because. Arrow, next. The thread calms. Rooms like adults who herd chaos into lines. By evening, he audits the day with a 3-check close. Did something ship on time? Did I protect 2 blocks? Did money move once? If yes to 2 of 3, the day cleared the floor. If yes to all 3, he draws a tiny square next to the date and fills it in. No stickers, no fireworks, just ink. That square is proof that discipline has entered the boring edge, the place where good days look similar and progress is visible without a speech. Chaos weeks still come. When they do, he shrinks deadlines to micro-commitments with real clocks. Replied to Jen by 9:15 with main and next. Title the doc by 7:40, then 2 lines. He texts his Denver friend the timestamp sandwich. Starting 25, then done. If the day blows up anyway, he obeys the grace clause. Rain planned 5 move, 5 make, $5 receipt, lights out, first inch set. Tomorrow gets a body that can carry deadlines again. Here's the quieter truth under all the ink. Discipline is a calendar skill. It isn't loud or angry or special. It's a person with a pen, a clock, a checklist, and a mouth that says begin at the right times. When Miles runs that system, excuses still talk, but the day doesn't listen. The page fills. The transfer clears. The night ends with a line a tired adult can believe. Shipped on time. Back tomorrow.
Excuses thrive in cluttered rooms. Not just physical clutter, mental, digital, social. Miles notices this on a Sunday when he cleans his apartment like it's a promise, not a chore. He doesn't buy motivational wall art. He removes friction until discipline has nothing to argue with. The desk becomes a stage with only the props the scene requires. Timer centered, water within reach, 1 notebook, the laptop already open to the right file. The rest, cables, knickknacks, yesterday's dishes, moves out of sight. A clear surface is not aesthetics. It's a decision pre-made. Every time he sits down, the room says, "We're here to do this." He carries the same logic to the kitchen. Discipline fails when dinner is an improv show at 9:15 p.m. He preps 3 boring, good-enough meals on Sunday. Proteins cooked, greens washed, carbs portioned, sauces in jars, and puts them at eye level. Snacks he can't be trusted with dropped to the hard-to-reach shelf. Now late-night hunger isn't a referendum on willpower. It's a 2-step assembly that takes less time than the debate. He isn't trying to become a saint. He's trying to become predictable to himself. The phone gets architecture instead of guilt. It sleeps on a hallway table that he calls customs, charges there, and waits for morning to prove it deserves admission. Workdays run on grayscale, with notification digests at set times, so novelty loses its candy shell. Social apps live on the second screen, inside a folder called Later, because words shape behavior. When he wants to scroll, he must literally swipe to Later. That tiny friction buys back hours he used to spend sampling other people's lives while his own sat unopened. People are part of the room. Miles makes a quiet list. Builders and bleeders. Builders leave him clearer. Bleeders leave him foggy or defensive. He doesn't announce a purge. He changes ratios. 1 weekly walk with someone who steadies him replaces 2 you-earned-it nights that dissolve into regret. He invites a colleague who ships on time to swap Monday plans and Friday receipts. 2 sentences each. He still loves his noisy group chat, but he mutes it until Saturday.
It isn't moral superiority, it's exposure control. You wouldn't train lungs in a smoke-filled gym. Don't train discipline in air that fights your future. Workspaces get jobs. The desk is for making, not grazing. The couch is for recovery, not email. The coffee shop is for deep reading, not chats. The park bench is for calls, not doom scrolling. Assigning rooms a single verb turns willpower into signage. When he breaks a rule, email on the couch, news at the desk, he notices the cost, forgives himself, and restores the room to its job. Over time, his brain learns the map. The moment he sits, the verb loads. Travel used to topple everything. Now he packs a portable room, wired earbuds, a paper notebook, a pen that glides, a printed first inch, and a cheap kitchen timer that ticks. Hotel desks are mystery boxes. His kit makes any surface behave like home. In airports, he has one rule he can keep even when delays stack like chairs. Move for 10 minutes or read 2 pages. No slumping into the algorithm's lap. He lands with identity intact, because identity traveled in a zip pouch. Evenings, he resets the stage as a love letter to tomorrow. Shoes by the door, water filled, a clean rectangle on the desk, the file open to the line that says next, so his sleepy eyes meet a runway, not a labyrinth. He doesn't trust his 7 a.m. brain to make decisions. He trusts his 9 p.m. hands to lay tracks. In the morning, that trust feels like energy. Not the caffeinated kind, the relieved kind.
Reduce noise. Noise management becomes the last piece. He replaces a news cycle that yanks his amygdala by the collar with a single newsletter and a 10-minute window. He unsubscribes from urgent lists that treat him like a siren. He curates a short playlist that cues work blocks and another that cues evening walks, and he doesn't let them wander. When the same music starts, the same behavior follows. That's not superstition, it's conditioning in friendly clothing. What emerges after 2 weeks isn't a monk's cell. It's a house that quietly votes for his choices. The environment removes 1,000 micro-decisions and leaves him 3 daily promises to keep: move, make, and move money. When he slips, the room speeds the return. Timer centered, title line waiting, water ready. It's hard to lie to yourself in a space engineered for honesty. The more his surroundings embody his standards, the less he needs speeches. He becomes the kind of person whose life pushes him forward even on days when his feelings reach for the brake. By the time Austin's streetlights blink on, Miles looks around and feels a gentler kind of pride. There is nothing impressive to photograph. No Iron Man medal, no vision board. Just a table that tells the truth, a kitchen that makes the right thing easy, a phone that behaves like furniture, and a circle of humans who don't make him negotiate his promises. The Spartan room isn't empty, it's aligned. And alignment is the only luxury self-discipline really needs. Excuses sell you comfort now and collect interest later. Discipline flips the contract. Pay small pain now, buy back big peace later. Miles learns this math on a Thursday that starts ordinary and ends with him sleeping easier than he has in months. Because all day, he chose his pain on purpose. The morning offers the first fork. Pain A is lace up and run 15 in Austin heat. Pain B is skip it and carry the restless low-grade guilt that hums through meetings like a fluorescent light. He picks A. It's sweaty, annoying, done by 7:30. His legs complain for 10 minutes. His mind thanks him all day.
That's the exchange discipline keeps. Acute pain that ends beats chronic discomfort that lingers. At 8:10, the next fork. Pain A is the blank screen in a 1-hour focus block. Pain B is the inbox carnival. Easy dopamine now, cognitive debt at 3 p.m. He chooses A, sets the kitchen timer, types the title line, breathes, and starts. The first 12 minutes hurt. The special ache of making something that didn't exist. Minute 13 softens. Minute 22 flows. At 9:12, he has paragraphs he can edit. By 10:30, he's not behind, he has inventory. Lunch tempts the comfortable lie. He earned a long one. Pain A is eating the boring bowl he prepped and walking 10 minutes outside. Pain B is the 90-minute gossip loop and the 3 p.m. crash. He chooses A not because he's noble, because he's tired of borrowing from later. The sun warms his eyelids. The walk clears stale thoughts the way opening a window clears a room. When the slump knocks, he's standing. Discipline becomes clearest around money. Miles gets an email. Flash sale ends in 4 hours. Last chance. Pain A is not buying something that will spend the month in a cart-shaped purgatory. Pain B is the click high followed by quiet regret, then a slower emergency fund, then a louder mind at night. He runs his 2 rules: buy after you've slept and, if it were full price tomorrow, would I want it? And clicks close. Nothing explodes. A tiny future bill vanishes before it has a chance to call itself just this once.
Afternoon drops a classic office dilemma. A teammate invites a quick chat that always becomes a 40-minute vent during his deep block. Pain A is the boundary sentence. Heads down till 2:30. I can do 2:35 to 2:55. Want that? Pain B is saying yes and paying with the hour he already promised his future self. He picks A. The teammate says, all good, later works. You won't always get that response. You'll get it more when you're consistent. Boundaries teach rooms how to respect your shape. Evening is where most discipline dies of nice. His cousin texts, can you look at my laptop? Pain A is a specific yes with edges. I'm free 6:40 to 7. Bring it by? Pain B is a vague yes that eats the night. He chooses A. They fix the thing in 19 minutes, then he walks his cousin to the door and returns to a room that still contains the hour he reserved to set tomorrow's first inch. Saying yes isn't kind without limits. Limits are the part that lets kindness keep existing. Some pains are heavier because they involve honesty. Miles opens his draft and sees a section that isn't working. Pain A is deleting 3 paragraphs he's weirdly fond of. Pain B is shipping fluff that looks finished and rots his reputation by 1 degree. He picks A. The cut hurts and then frees the rest to land. In American rooms, clarity is a moral act. Deletion is part of that morality. On the fridge, his ledger shows the day's 3 big squares. Move 15, make 60, money $10, filled in. Underneath, he's added a new line this month called Chosen Pain. It's not masochism, it's a receipt of where he paid early so later could be light. Today's reads like a pattern. Sweat, first inch, boundary, bowl, close tab, time box, cut fluff. None heroic, all deliberate. He can point to each and say, that one bought me peace at 10 p.m. Because discipline without joy becomes brittle, he schedules a treat on purpose. A sunset walk on the boardwalk with a playlist that knows his pulse. Pleasure after completion tastes clean. He's not rewarding himself like a pet. He's completing the circuit. Effort, evidence, ease. At the water's edge, the bats take the sky, and his shoulders drop 2 centimeters.
That distance between his ears and his traps is the measurable ROI of a day full of chosen pains. There are, of course, pains you shouldn't choose. Grind that steals sleep, pride that refuses help, martyrdom that calls itself grit. He writes a small card and tapes it above the desk to keep the math honest. Choose, short burn that ends, first inch, honest boundary, small savings. Refuse, long burn that compounds, sleep debt, debt, vague yeses. Ask, what pain buys future ease for me and others? That last line matters. Real discipline isn't narcissism in gym clothes. It's a form of service. Miles' boundaries make him easier to schedule with. His on-time drafts make teammates faster. His savings make him calmer in crises, which makes him kinder to people who didn't plan. Your pain, chosen wisely, becomes less pain for the room. By night, the phone sleeps at customs, the first inch is set, the desk looks like an invitation. He writes 2 sentences in the notebook. Paid small pains on purpose, bought peace later. He says the 4-word lullaby, we're safe. Lights out.
And his body believes him because his day earned it. Tomorrow will offer new forks. He can't control the map, but he can keep choosing the toll roads that get him home earlier, with gas in the tank and a mind that doesn't need to invent excuses to fall asleep. Discipline isn't only what you do alone at 7 a.m., it's how you show up when watched. In meetings, on calls, at the register, across the table from someone you love. Miles used to be fluent in private promises and clumsy in public moments. Pressure turned his sentences into apologies, his prices into whatever works, his boundaries into back doors. So he practices steel in the voice, not volume, structure. In American rooms, structure reads as calm. He adopts a 3-line spine for anything live. Headline, because, next. He speaks it before feelings get a vote. Main point, we're still on track. Because, specs landed Tuesday. Next, draft by 3 p.m. The room relaxes because it can follow him. When someone pushes, why not noon? He doesn't defend the past, he protects the plan. Could do noon if we drop animation. Want that trade? Negotiation becomes math, not morality. Money brings a different heat. Old Miles discounted by instinct. New Miles writes a rate script on a card he reads before calls. For X, my rate is $. That includes A and B. Timeline is 2 weeks. If that's high, I can scope a simpler version at $. He says it, then stays quiet. The quiet is discipline. If a client asks for just a quick extra, he uses the kind sentence with edges. Happy to, let's add it to scope or swap it for Y. People rarely respect your time more than you do out loud. The first time he holds the line, his stomach flips. The third time, his calendar flips, from random favors to fit work. Friends and family test boundaries with love. A sibling calls at 8:15 a.m., right on his deep block, to tell a story that could keep. The excuse is kindness, the cost is consistency. Miles answers with specific availability. Heads down till 9:10. Free 12:20 or 6:47. What works? When the sibling says 2 minutes, he repeats the shape. 12 or 6:40. Broken record outside, healthy spine inside. He still shows up for emergencies. He just stops calling poor planning an emergency. That distinction saves relationships from the quiet resentment that grows in people who don't keep promises to themselves. When conflict sparks, he uses behavior, impact, request, so discipline doesn't collapse into either dodging or detonating. When the notes arrive late, behavior, I can't prep for morning rounds. Impact, could you send by 8 or ping me at 6 if you can't? Request, plus option. No character attacks, no essays, just workable. If the other person blames or spirals, he returns to the request once, then sets the boundary. If timing slips, I'll let the lead know and we'll split sections. That isn't cruelty, it's clarity, and clarity is a form of care.
Email is where discipline goes to drown. So he writes spine first. Subject lines carry verbs. Approve by WED 2 p.m. Hold, agenda for 10:30. Decision, option A versus B. My vote is A. He writes 3 sentences. He deletes apology filler, sorry for the long email, just circling back, and installs receipt lines, received, numbers by 3. His inbox shrinks because threads end. Ending threads is a kindness to everyone's nervous system, especially his own. Public speaking once hijacked his pulse. The fix wasn't confidence, it was rehearsed brevity. He keeps a 1-minute open he can use anywhere. Who, problem, action, result, ask. He practices in the kitchen with shoes on, timer visible. Shoes matter. Your body remembers gear.
Before he speaks in a room, he breathes 4 in, 6 out, twice, and touches the table's edge. His doorway ritual for the mouth. If he loses his place, he uses the American rescue line. Let me say that more simply. Then lands the headline. The discipline isn't never wobble. It's own the wobble without abandoning the point. Discipline meets delight when he serves without score. Once a week, he gives away 15 minutes. Feedback on a junior's deck, a micro-audit of a friend's resume, a loom explaining a 1-page template. He puts a timer on it and a bow at the end. Hope useful, cheering you on. This practice protects his heart from turning no excuses into no compassion. Service is rocket fuel for sustainable rigor. Crisis protocols keep him from turning hot moments into long problems. If tension spikes, angry email, tense meeting, sudden mistake, he runs 90-second rule plus patch. He waits 1 minute and 30 seconds, chemicals fall, writes a patch note, confirm dates before sending, and replies with admit plus repair plus prevent. You're right, the date was off. Updated file attached. I'll confirm dates before sending. Discipline, under heat, looks like fast responsibility. Rooms remember who repairs first. He treats reputation like a ledger, not a myth. Monday, send a 2-line plan to his lead. Friday, send a 2-line receipt. What shipped, what he learned. When someone praises him, he screenshots the line that says, "This helped," and adds it to a folder called Proof. On bad days, he scrolls the folder until his nervous system remembers evidence beats emotion. Confidence is not a pep talk, it's a paper trail. Finally, he installs closing rituals for people the way he did for projects. End a meeting, so we're aligned. A by Wednesday, I'll do B by noon Friday, and we'll decide C Monday. End a favor. Glad to help. If you need more, book 20 next week. End a conflict repair. Appreciate the reset. Here's what I'll do differently. Closures are where effort gets credit. Without them, effort evaporates. With them, effort compounds into trust. By night, the ledger shows the same quiet squares. Move 15, make 60, money $10. And something harder to draw. A day where his voice matched his values in rooms that used to tilt him. He didn't shout. He didn't people-please. He spoke in lines that moved work forward, protected the hours he had already bought, and made space for generosity with edges. That's steel. Not cold. Shaped. Discipline is a house you maintain, not a temple you visit once a year. When Miles feels the screws loosen, sleep off, inbox wild, workout skipped, he doesn't declare a new life. He runs a 24-hour reset. A reset is not punishment. It's maintenance with a stopwatch.
The promise is simple. One ordinary Tuesday, tuned with intention to remind the body and brain what I keep my word feels like. He starts the clock at 6:45 a.m. with 3 moves that take less than 5 minutes and change the day's slope. A tall glass of water, 10 minutes of light on his eyelids, porch counts, and a 5-minute move, air squats, wall push-ups, slow neck rolls. He isn't trying to get fit in 5 minutes. He's sending a message to his nervous system, alert, not alarm. He opens his grid notebook and writes the only 3 inputs the reset measures. Move 15, make 60, money $10, and draws 3 empty boxes beside each. He's giving himself multiple chances to hit the floor across the day. One stumble can't kill a reset that expects you to be human. At 7:30, the first inch ceremony begins.
He places the kitchen timer and speaks a sentence out loud that would sound silly if it didn't work every time. Begin now. The first inch is always microscopic. Type the title line of the draft, lace the shoes, open the bank app and move 10. He wants the satisfaction of a completed unit before the world starts whispering scenarios. Discipline is momentum in small containers. One clean finish is a fuse. He sets the day's owned deadlines on an index card, each with a clock. Ship the draft by 11. Nudge the vendor by 2:30. Update the budget by 6. Under the card, he writes the reset's governing policy in block letters. Ugly and on time, then improve. That line turns perfection into a volunteer, not a gatekeeper. The calendar becomes a factory. 2 deep sets before inbox. 8:10 to 9:10. 9:25 to 10:25. A 5-minute walk. Eyes up, shoulders back, then email at 10:30. He leaves a quiet rail in Slack. Heads down 8 to 10. Back after. Rails feel bossy inside your head and reliable to everyone else. Reset meals are boringly kind. Breakfast is protein plus fruit plus water. Lunch is the prepped bowl that waits at eye level. He protects the 3 p.m. him by eating before he's starving and touching sunlight again. He keeps coffee honest. 1 cup early, then water. He isn't doing a cleanse, he's clearing friction. The point of the reset isn't to suffer. It's to make the right thing, the easy thing for a single lap around the clock. At noon, he runs the excuse translator automatically. You're behind, start with email. Becomes, I'm anxious. 1 paragraph first, inbox after. Skip the transfer, it's just 10. Becomes, $1 moved is $1 trained. He taps the transfer and inks a box. The ledger loves ink more than theories. If an emergency pings mid-block, he writes 1 re-entry line at the top of the dock, where I left off was. So the second set starts on rails, not fog. Afternoon uses the 2-engine model. Grit starts. Grace sustains. Grit says begin on schedule. Grace says stand, drink, 2 slow exhales. Then the next sentence. Grit holds the fences. No social before noon. No unplanned lunches. Grace runs the rain plan if energy dips. 5 move. 5 make. $5 receipt. The reset doesn't score heroics. It scores continuity.
Lightning bolt marks go beside any box filled after a wobble because bounce matters more than streak. At 4:45, he cleans the public ledger. A 2-line update to his lead. Draft shipped 10:58. Next, revise after numbers land. Ending threads is kindness to future brains. He drops one unrequited favor for a 60-second loom for a junior teammate. Because service steadies discipline better than self-scolding ever did. Giving a sentence away keeps your own sentences honest. Evening is a soft landing with edges. He sets tomorrow's first inch on the keyboard where sleepy eyes will see it. He writes 3 lines on an index card. What moved? What jammed? Skill, setup, or timing? And 1 patch note to test tomorrow. He resets the stage. Clear desk, timer centered, water filled, shoes visible. He escorts the phone to customs on the hallway shelf. He lets pleasure happen after closure. 10 pages of a book or a walk at sunset. Pleasure after completion tastes clean and teaches the brain the correct order of operations. If the reset day goes sideways, and some will, he refuses the old theater of penance. No midnight marathons. No vows to be a different person. He protects the floor. Move 5. Write 5. $5. Writes RP for rain plan beside the boxes. And goes to bed on time with the 4-word lullaby. We're safe. Lights out. Tomorrow inherits a body that can carry discipline. That's the only inheritance that matters.
By 9:40 p.m., he looks at the grid, boxes inked, bolts where he bounced, 1 patch circled. Nothing Instagrammable, everything repeatable. Resets aren't about penance. They are about proof, reminding your nervous system, in 24 honest hours, reset, and the week stops drifting. Run 2 this month, and the identity locks back in place with a click you can feel in your chest. Short bursts are loud. A decade is quiet. Discipline that lasts learns to bend with seasons without breaking its identity. Miles figures this out as Austin slides from scorching summer into a kinder fall. His life changes around him. New teammate, travel week to Denver, a family visit that brings happy chaos, and he notices the old urge to pause the program until things calm down. Things won't. So he writes a page titled, Same Person, 3 Seasons. Season 1, heavy, when energy is high and calendars cooperate. Season 2, normal, average weeks with a couple potholes. Season 3, storm, sleep is thin, obligations pile, or emotions run hot. For each season, he defines the same identity floor in different sizes. Heavy, move 30, make 90, money 20. Normal, move 15, make 60, money 10. Storm, move 5, make 5, money 5, plus the restart line. Back now, 1 sentence and done. And the RP stamp in the ledger, so the story doesn't lie about what kind of week it was. The point is continuity, not heroics. The self he's building is reliable across weather, which is the only reliability that matters. He turns routines into modules he can swap instead of projects he must protect. Morning module A is run outside. Module B is indoor 5-minute set. Module C is a hotel hallway walk plus 10 squats. Work module A is 2 deep sets before inbox. Module B is 1 deep set, 1 tidy set. Module C is a 15-minute first inch sprint. Money module A moves $20 with a category freeze. B moves $10. C moves $5 and simply notices the expensive hour he just avoided. These modules live on a single index card taped in the notebook, so when a day tilts, he picks the fitting module instead of picking a fight with reality. Anti-fragile routines don't shatter under load. They resize and keep identity intact. To guard the long game against boredom, the quiet enemy of discipline, he installs refreshers, not overhauls. Every other month, he changes exactly one element. A new route for the run, a different playlist for deep work, a fresh 10-minute drill for his craft. He also rotates his joy column on the ledger. Bats at Congress Avenue in October, a different park bench in November, a new coffee shop ritual for December. Joy is not a bribe, it's maintenance for the engine that carries everything else. He treats setbacks the way athletes treat soreness, as signals to adjust load, not invitations to catastrophize. If the same task keeps slipping, he asks the three true questions. Is this a skill gap, a setup problem, or a timing lie? Skill gap gets a micro-lesson scheduled. Setup problem gets a room fix. Timing lie gets moved to the hour where he actually has charge. He writes the result as a one-line patch note, so the week that follows benefits from the week that hurt. The ledger becomes not just proof, but memory. A system that remembers what worked when he forgets. Relationships are part of the long game, so he builds cadence instead of guilt. On Mondays, he sends the lead the two-line plan. Fridays, the two-line receipt. Once a week, he gives away one unscored 15-minute help. Twice a month, he schedules a walk call with someone who steadies him. Quarterly, he runs a light, friendly review of his own compass.
I make and explain useful things, briefly, clearly, consistently. If a shiny opportunity conflicts, he says no without theater. Saying no to misaligned work is not self-denial. It's calendar hygiene for the future he keeps saying he wants. Finally, he puts identity in the only place it can't be stolen: evidence. On tired nights, he opens the proof folder and scrolls the small receipts. Shipped on time, boundary held kindly, a teammate's "this helped," the graph of tiny transfers trudging upward. He doesn't hype himself, he reads what his hands did. Confidence born from evidence doesn't need adrenaline to report for duty tomorrow. It needs sleep, water, light, a first inch, and the sentence he whispers before the dark takes the room. We're safe. Lights out. He is not the mood he wakes up with. He is the person who keeps floors, fences, and finishes through seasons. That's the kind of discipline you can hand to a year without watching it crack. Stand by the window like it's a new doorway. Breathe 4 in, 6 out, twice. Read this aloud, slowly, as written, and let your mouth teach your nervous system what your life sounds like now. Main point: I run my life on small, non-negotiable units, especially when I don't feel like it. Because excuses are expensive later, and tiny pain now buys me peace tonight. I move at least 15 minutes, I make 60 minutes of focused work before email, and I move money, even $5, every weekday. I run floors, fences, and finishes. Minimums I hit, boundaries I hold, and one-sentence receipt so tomorrow knows where to begin. When I wobble, I use grace. Water, light, 5 honest minutes, then the restart line, back now, 1 sentence and done. My phone sleeps at customs, notifications arrive in batches, and I ship ugly and on time, then improve. My week runs on modules: heavy, normal,
storm, so identity survives weather. I speak in headline because, next, repair fast when I miss, and I end the day with 4 words. We're safe. Lights out. Next, I'll keep the bookends, protect 2 blocks, move the money, and teach one tiny thing I learned. I'm a person who keeps small promises on schedule. Now pin a 24-hour plan for tomorrow where your eyes land at 7 a.m. Bookends. Water, light, 5-minute move, first inch. Night receipt, stage reset, phone at customs, 4-word lullaby. 2 blocks before inbox, 8:10 a.m. to 9:10 a.m. and 9:25 a.m. to 10:25 a.m. Titles written in the dock. Money at 9:05. Transfer $10 or your storm floor $5. Fence. No unplanned lunches. Notifications at 11:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Social in 2 15-minute boxes. Rain plan ready. Move 5, make 5. $5. Receipt if chaos hits. 1 public receipt. 2-line update or a tiny template shared. That's it. Not a speech. Rails. When you run this for one ordinary Tuesday, the middle of the day starts behaving like a place you can steer. Run it for 4 Tuesdays, and the month feels like yours again. Thanks for watching Wisped Tales. Today's story, The Power of Self-Discipline, No Excuses, was built to live in your shoes tomorrow morning.
If it helped, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs a calm, repeatable plan. Drop a comment with one policy you're adopting this week. Minimum dose counts, ugly and on time, or phone at customs, or your own. Next time, we'll bring another deep, practical story you can use the same day you hear it. Until then, keep the bookends, keep the floor, and keep your word.